Hey everyone, in today's video I'm going to review the BenQ SW271 27-inch 4K monitor from the perspective of a visual content creator, somebody who edits photos, videos and create visual content on a daily basis. Now this video is going to be a bit long. If you want to save some time, you can actually check out the text review that I have already written. The content in the text review and this video review is essentially the same. If I have any updates to this video review, it will all go to the text review. The link is in the video description below. I have already made an unboxing video for this monitor 2 weeks ago where I talk about the build quality, the design and the things that I included. So in this video, I'm just going to briefly mention the important things that I noticed. The focus of this video really is on how good this monitor is when it comes to creating visual content professionally, and also the workflow on a monitor that supports 4K resolution on both macOS and Windows. By the way, this video is sponsored by BenQ. By sponsored, I mean I do get to keep this monitor, but I'm not paid for this review. Alright, let's talk about the design first. It's a pretty straightforward design. Thin bezels at the top and on the sides. The bottom here is thicker. The control buttons are right in front, and we have a very big base here, bigger than usual. Overall design it's straightforward, very functional. This monitor has very good adjustability, so you can adjust the height and it goes quite high up, which is great because I usually need to connect other cables beneath, and I can actually have my head go under and look at where I'm connecting. So this is very convenient, and you can rotate this 90 degrees. So if you're working on a vertical page or a portrait, you can view your work vertically. You can also tilt the monitor and rotate it as well. Right now I have strong light source coming in from the side, so this is the anti-glare effect on the matte surface screen. Usually when I'm working, it's pointed to the front, so it looks like this. The brightness for this monitor is up to 350 nits, which is bright enough. Right now I have it on at 70% brightness, so you can even go brighter. On the back we have this carrying handle, which is very useful. Sometimes I would run the cables through this hole here so that I don't see any cables beneath. It makes the bottom look much neater. On the side here we have the SD card reader and 2 USB ports. These ports are actually on the back of the monitor rather than on the side, so they are a bit inconvenient to access, and because of that I do not use these ports here. I actually have a card reader that is attached to my computer. It's so much easier for me to access that than the ports here on the back of the monitor. You can VESA mount this if you want to. This is 10 by 10 centimeters. These are the ports available. We have this micro USB port, 2 full-size HDMI version 2, full-size display port version 1.4, USB-C with 10 watts of power delivery. This is a USB upstream port and 3.5mm audio jack. The micro USB port is for this remote that you can use to change the color space of the monitor. So you can go into black and white, as RGB, Adobe RGB, Rec 709, DCI-P3. You can also use this to access the controls, the menus of the monitor, to change the settings. This is convenient for those people who need to switch between color spaces frequently to check your work. Personally, for me, I only use Adobe RGB, so with my previous monitor, the BenQ SW271 PT, which also comes with this remote, I've not used it a single time. And if you don't use this, you can actually just store this away. Notice I don't have any cables beneath. That's because I have passed the cables through the carrying handle at the top, so now the bottom it looks very clean and neat. This monitor also comes with a shading hood, which is very useful and it's very easy to fix. Now this shading hood actually comes in several pieces, so you have to fix all the pieces together to form this hood, and after that you can just slide it onto the monitor. There are little holes on the side for you to slide into. The shading hood does an effective job at blocking out unwanted light from the side and also from the top. And here there is a latch that you can open, so you can run the USB cable of your color calibrator through this hole here. I have the shading hood on the monitor all the time, and now that I have used this, if I do need to upgrade my monitor in the future, I will only look for monitors that come with shading hoods. It's that useful. Since there is a USB-C port on this monitor, you can connect your tablet or laptop to it through USB-C if they can output a video signal through that. The shortcut to change the input is here on the left side, so let's switch to USB-C. Now the port only delivers 10 watts of power, so it's not going to charge your laptop. It's more like preventing your laptop's battery from draining fast. The refresh rate of this monitor is 60 Hz, so if you're using a laptop or tablet that has higher refresh rate, it's going to drop down to 60 Hz. And now let's talk about colors. This monitor is designed and engineered for photographers and designers who value color accuracy. Now this is a true 10-bit IPS panel that supports a 14-bit 3D lookup table. And it also supports AQCOLOR technology from BenQ and has Technicolor color certification. Basically, what all those jargon means is this monitor is designed and engineered to have fantastic color accuracy. This monitor has been color calibrated in the factory, so out of the box the colors, they look fantastic. For my work purposes, I have also color calibrated this screen so that I can see consistent colors on all the monitors that I use. I also have another monitor in the office and also a laptop, so after calibrating all the colors on these three screens, they now look the same. I have used a Spider 5 Pro color calibrator for calibration. I managed to get a readout of 99% sRGB support, 90% NTSC, and 95% Adobe RGB. Even though this is not 99% Adobe RGB, this is still good enough for me. Before you calibrate your screen, make sure to set the correct color temperature and gamma, and also your preferred brightness. So, notice the anti-glare. So I have very strong light source. I mean, the shading hood, it does a good job at blocking out unwanted light. But if your room is too bright, you are still going to see the anti-glare filter doing its job. So let me just draw the curtains first. Since we are here, let's see what you can change. So for color adjustment, you can change the color space, brightness, contrast, sharpness, color temperature, gamma, black levels. There is also picture-in-picture mode. And this is where you can change some of the system settings. The main selling point of this monitor is color accuracy. The second selling point is the 4K resolution. So with the previous monitor that I was using, which is also a 27-inch monitor, it only supports 1440p resolution, which gives me 3.7 million pixels. With this 4K resolution, this is 8.3 million pixels. So this is more than 2 times the number of pixels compared to the previous monitor. And because there are now more pixels, you can see greater detail, sharpness, and any sort of pixelation with the fonts, user interface. Now everything looks very sharp, and it's almost impossible to see the individual pixels because those pixels are now so tiny. This monitor is great for editing photos. Right now I'm using Adobe Lightroom on Mac OS, and this 14 megapixel photo has been scaled to fit the screen. So I'm going to zoom in at 100% to see how much of the photo we can still see. Pay attention to the markers here. We can see 6 markers. So right now it's at 100% zoom. We are seeing 1 for 1 pixels, and we can still see the 6 markers. Part of the photo has been cropped off, the top and the sides, but we can still see a good amount, a good portion of the photo. This is 14 megapixel, which is 14 million pixels on this 8.3 million pixel screen. If we are using a 1440p monitor, we would probably see just a smaller portion of the photo. So a high resolution screen like this allows you to see more of your photo, allows you to see your photo in greater detail. Editing videos on this screen is also a very satisfactory experience. This is a 4K resolution video, so because this is a 4K screen, I can actually play back the video and watch it at the native resolution. The amount of detail I can see, the sharpness, it's incredible. It's really a joy to be editing 4K videos on this screen and watch the playback at 4K. Doing graphic design work on a 27-inch screen is very comfortable. This is a really nice size. So here I have a page layout that measures 54 centimeters wide by 33 centimeters tall. And the actual width of this monitor is around 58 centimeters. So I have this 54 centimeters page on a 58 centimeters wide screen. This means I can view the page at 100% zoom at the actual size that it's going to be printed. And this is great for checking the size of the fonts, and also because the monitor is very color accurate, you can see the actual colors as if it's going to be printed on paper. This is Photoshop on Mac OS, and here I have a scan of my watercolor swatches. I want to compare this to let you see how accurate the colors are on screen versus in real life. So from what I can see, these 3 swatches here, they are captured rather accurately. They look the same here as on screen, but this red here, it looks a bit different on the screen. The reason for that is because my scanner, it's unable to capture bright and vibrant red colors very well, so there is this difference. And let's say if I want to scan this and reproduce it in a printout or in a book, for example, once I scan it on the screen, once I see this color and compare it to my source, I can see that the colors are different. I know that there is something wrong with this file and I shouldn't be using this file for printing. So this is where having a color accurate monitor really helps. It can help you check the colors on screen versus that in real life and see whether or not they match. One thing I noticed when I switched from 1440p resolution to this 4K screen is many of my older scans, which I thought were rather high resolution because I scanned them at 300 dpi, now they appear to be low resolution on this 4K screen. For example, with this file here, this is 3000 pixels by 3000 pixels, and this is smaller in terms of resolution compared to the 4K screen, which is why this file is now no longer able to fill the screen. So going forward, all the scans that I have to make, I have to scan them at twice the resolution at 600 dpi. So this was scanned at 600 dpi. Now I have a high resolution file, and on this high resolution screen I can see more of the details of my scan. 4K resolution is good and all, but it actually makes the user interface, like the menus, the icons, the buttons, the palettes, they look much smaller compared to lower resolution screens like the 144p screens. So what you can do to increase the size of the user interface on Mac OS is to go into display settings. So here we can scale the user interface. Now note that we are scaling the user interface but not changing the resolution of the screen. So I'm going to pick this to scale the user interface to this resolution. So now after the scaling, the user interface is 2 times the size than before, which makes it easier to see. And when you run your mouse cursor over, it's also easier to click on the correct icon. This file here, this is still in 4K resolution, even though the user interface has been scaled to 1080p. You can use Mac OS display settings to scale the user interface, and there are 5 options for you to choose from. There are only 2 options that allow you to see the file in 4K resolution. So what I mean is, Let's pick this and scale the user interface to 1440p and see what happens. So now the user interface is smaller compared to the 1080p user interface, but it's still bigger compared to the 4K user interface. The thing to take note here is this file here, this is actually a 4K file. I have compressed the 14 megapixel down to a 4K resolution. So by right at 100%, it's now at 100%, it should fill up the whole screen, but that is not the case here. So we can see that this photo is actually smaller. You can still see the photo is very sharp, but this is not true 4K. So it's actually a compressed version of the actual 4K file. So on macOS, if you want to see your file or your video displayed in true 4K resolution, you have to choose to scale your user interface to 1080p or just use the native 4K resolution. If you choose these three options here, you are not going to see your actual file in 4K. It's going to be a compressed version of the 4K file. Basically in macOS, if you want to see your file in 4K resolution, your user interface will either be very big or very small. You cannot choose to scale your user interface to your preferred size. So now let me show you how Windows handles 4K. So this is Photoshop on Windows in 4K resolution. The menus, the icons, the palettes, they are very small because this is in actual 4K, and this is a 4K photo, so it fills up the whole screen without any gaps basically. So this is actual 4K on a 4K screen. Windows have a better 4K implementation. So this screen 2 is the BenQ monitor, and here you can see the resolution is 4K, and this is where you can change the scaling of the user interface, and I'm going to choose 150%. And notice straight away the fonts, the design, it becomes larger. So now back to Photoshop, we can see the user interface elements. They are now bigger, in fact 1.5 times bigger than previously. And also this 4K photo, notice that this is not compressed, this is not scaled down like earlier that we see on macOS, which was scaled down. This 4K photo fills the 4K screen, so there is no compression. You are seeing 1 pixel for 1 pixel. Backlight bleeding is quite well controlled. I don't see any noticeable wavy light pattern that usually appears at the bottom or the corners of the screen. This is actually a photo where the contrast has been adjusted slightly to let you see more clearly whether or not there is any backlight bleeding. And the backlight is quite even. Now this is an IPS panel, so there is IPS glow, but when you are viewing the monitor straight on, the glow is not noticeable. When you view it at an angle, then yes, of course, there is IPS glow. So that's the difference between 4K workflow on Windows and Mac OS. If you want to get this monitor to work with Windows, there is not going to be any issues. If you want to get this to use with Mac OS, then to really use it at 4K resolution, your user interface will either be very big or very small. There's no in between, unless you want to go for 32-inch 4K screen, which is going to be much more expensive. The price of this monitor will of course depend on where you buy it. You can check out the latest price through the links in the video description below, as well as links to where you can find out more information about this monitor, especially the specifications, which I didn't really mention much about. But one thing I can tell you is this monitor, it's quite pricey, and that's actually the main reason why I chose to go with the 1440p monitor rather than this 4K monitor. But if you do need a color accurate 4K monitor, this is a good option to consider. I've been using this monitor intensively for 2 weeks, and to give you the brief conclusion, this is a very high quality monitor for those people who need color accuracy. So in the next video on this monitor, I will be comparing this with the BenQ SW271 PT. which is my previous monitor, and the SW240. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell icon to get notified when that video comes out. Thanks for watching today's video. I hope this is helpful. See you in the next one. Bye.